Good.
Where's Danielle? Okay.
All right, we'll call this meeting back to order.
Okay, before I was brought on board, there was an issue with 18 East Pine Street about getting an asbestos survey done on that. That was actually completed last Tuesday. And there you go.
Sorry.
The asbestos survey was done last Tuesday. I do not have the report yet, but from all indications I've received was that there wasn't any asbestos in it, but I don't have that in writing yet. I think we're going to be okay if we want to accept that building. So as soon as I get the report, I'll forward it to you and we'll go from there.
Was there a test done on the property, not just the building too?
Just the building.
'Cause I thought we were gonna do like a soil test. Didn't we talk about that?
I always recommend before you purchase property that you do a what's called a phase one assessment. And the reason for that is because without that phase one assessment, if somebody else contaminated the property, even from off-site, you're in the chain of title under CERCLA, and so you're responsible for helping clean it up. But that's have to do even property. I would recommend even for property that's being given to cities, because you don't want to be in the chain of title when something nasty's on there. Methyl ethyl kilophil or whatever they throw on there can really cause a lot of expenses. I had to deal with a case like that for another city as a junior attorney, and it was horrible. Because they didn't get their assessment. So.
Do we own that property yet? Because I looked on the property appraiser, it's still under that gentleman. Can he still rescind his offer of donation?
Okay. Yes, he can, but he wants to give it to the city. And the direction that I saw y'all do before I got here was to have a survey done. And that has now been done, and I'll have the report back soon. And then we can move forward from there. You wanted to have the survey done to find out if it was going to cost us anything to abate the asbestos if there was some found in there.
Or demo the property, et cetera, right?
Well, even with demoing, you have to deal with the
Yeah.
asbestos.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I've had several calls from a family in town that's wanting to buy it as is and rehab it and fix it up. And they have the funding to do it. And so, I mean, if we do any kind of asbestos research, we'd have to give them that information, but
Yes.
you can still cover it up and all, but we would have to go through our procurement policy and make sure that it goes to the highest bidder. But if we can sell it and rehab it, I think it's better than us trying to demo it and sit on an empty lot.
Absolutely.
But as Mr. Bernard said, phase one assessment, is what I recommend.
Yeah.
It's not cheap, and but it's good insurance.
But would that be the sentiment of this council? I mean, would you all want to see it be rehabbed rather than having it be demoed? It's a cool looking old structure.
I would much rather someone rehab it and live in it rather than us
Yeah.
take it.
Put 'em
And
on
why
a
don't
tax
the
roll.
guy that offered it to us, why don't he just sell it to the people that you know about?
I don't know that I don't know. I mean, this was just a phone call that I had in the last few days, and
He thought there would be some interest to us because of the historical aspect of it. It was the old Touchton, Dr. Touchton's original office that he saw patients at. And that was back in the 1930s, maybe. And that's the historical significance from it. It was the only doctor, that was before Touchton branched off and had the drugstore, which is next to the Brickell Building. So that was Mr. Brokaw's thought, was that we would be interested in it because of the historical aspect of it.
So when do we
Okay.
foresee owning the building then? I mean, because if someone does want to buy it and rehab it, it'll go back to its historic facade.
This will be up to you. When we get the asbestos survey back, I will report to you what it is. You will make a decision at that point as to whether you want to accept it as a donation or have him sell it, or whatever you want to do at that point. It's up to
I
you.
would recommend that you not own it until you do the phase one assessment, if you're going to do a phase one assessment. Or you may decide not to do one against my recommendation, but I'm just simply saying, if you're going to do the phase one assessment, do not take title in it until it's done. And if they find problems and it goes on to a phase two, I mean, you do not want to own it until it's resolved as being clear.
then what would stop the owner just selling it to someone interested in rehabbing it, and then we're stuck with this big, asbestos study bill? Because, I mean, the phase one is pretty
Right.
expensive.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we would have had to have had a purchase or a acceptance agreement contingent upon those things.
Yeah.
Which we don't have at this point.
Yeah, the other thing is, that I'm recommending is you get title search done, get a title, opinion of title. I'm sorry, but, somebody can give you something and say, I only give you a
Yeah.
quick claim deed to it, but you own nothing because,
It's not
four
theirs to
four
give.
generations back, a husband or wife sold it without the missing husband or wife's permission, and that's invalid in Florida. So, I just simply say those are things that I recommend as an attorney, you handle it the way you want.
I agree with the attorney.
You want to hear about surveys?
No.
Yeah, 'cause
Cha-ching.
We got time on the recording, go ahead.
same thing. I mean, as an attorney, I would recommend you get a survey of the property to make sure that there's no encroachments, and that if there are encroachments, that they're, can be resolved, or that you end up owning what you think you're going to own.
And if we sell it, it would go through the bid process, right? That,
Yeah.
would we get our
You-
money back?
you would
Could
get
we
you-
offer it or say this is the minimum amount we're willing to take, and then
Yeah,
people have to
absolutely.
bid on top?
Yeah, you make that the minimum amount that you're going to take for that property.
Of
course-
How much would that minimum amount be roughly?
I don't know.
The
These
expenses
are all.
we put into it.
Well, I know
Yeah.
that, but how much is that? Is it 1,000? Is it 100,000?
Oh, no, unless the property has to be cleaned up, in which case you wouldn't accept it. I'm saying a phase one assessment is going to be somewhere between 1,500 and 5,000, depending on how big the property is. I don't even know that, because I'm not familiar with the property. And a survey is going to be a couple $100 probably.
Yeah.
I don't know, you have surveys done all the time, so you probably know what that is better than I do in this area. And the title work, like I said, we're going to find out how much that is when I get that from Bernice, if that's what you all want to do. With regard to that other property we were talking about, yeah. So
How
she
much have
can-
we spent on the asbestos survey?
I want to say it was 1,400,
1,400?
that's what I want to say. I don't have that in front of me, so don't hold me to that.
Wow.
Well, what's to stop anyone right now of contacting the owner and saying, listen, I want to go ahead and just buy this from you?
Nothing,
Nothing is stopping them.
nothing.
So, I mean, I think it's a good idea to have an agreement with them, say, look, you still need to get these things done, but we don't want to get them done unless we're sure that you're going to sell us the property or give us the property and as a donation. But, what's to keep him from not signing that? You're going to refuse the building? I mean, that'd be my recommendation that you do refuse it unless you can do these things. So that's up to you as to whether you want to take that risk or not. It may be that, somebody waits until you get it all checked out. And
Right.
Then they make an offer for
Right.
it. Well, now that you see it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that's protected from the Public Records Act is appraisals.
Yeah.
I mean, you get an appraisal done and not divulge it under 119. It's not a public record until either the sale goes or is refused. But not these things.
Yeah, I think we need to get a acceptance agreement contingent upon whatever surveys we want to do, or just walk away from it, because where we are now is not a good place.
But we're close to that now, though, aren't we?
No, we're close to a asbestos.
That's it,
For
okay.
the structure alone.
Yeah, the phase one assessment is going to be equivalent to that at least.
Yeah.
And,
If not more.
well, it may be more, but depending on how big the property is. I mean, how many acres of the property outside of the building?
It's 100 by 100.
Yeah, that's not like real big. But, I reviewed one for my church and it was $3,000 for them. And it's not,
How big is your church?
it was a decent sized property,
Bigger than
but
100 by 100?
yeah.
But even if you
Let's
come
hire
back and
those
there's a
people.
positive for asbestos for a level 1 or whatever, I mean, would we have to clean it up? Or if someone wants it, can we put it out the bid and say, okay, this is the bid, you guys do with it what you need to?
Oh, yeah.
We
But,
wouldn't
you know,
have
if
to
you-
follow through with another
The
cleanup.
problem is, you still need to do the phase one assessment
Yeah,
because and really the title opinion as well, because how can you give somebody else something that you don't own? And like I said, you don't want to take title at all without doing the title stuff. Because it doesn't matter if you sell it the next day, you are now in the chain of title on their CERCLA. And anybody in the chain of title is going to have to contribute to the thing, so.
So all of that would be part of the price of our baseline if we decided to sell it.
Yeah.
and it goes to bid, and
Yeah,
if no one takes it, then we know what we have. Either way, we still have control in the end.
yeah.
And
Okay.
if no one takes it, it's probably because it needs to be torn down, and then we get to go ahead and pay to tear it down.
Yeah,
And so we spent, $15,000 on a 100 by 100 lot
yeah.
that we probably could have got for
I-
$1,200.
We could have
I'm
bought it
sorry,
from
you know,
them.
you can take the risk,
Yeah.
but, I just simply tell you, that's what has to be my recommendation based on his experience.
But we cannot stop
Uh,
the owner from selling to somebody calling him tomorrow and saying, I'll give you 10,000 for that.
Yeah, I will simply, as an example, town of Zolfo Springs, buying
fine.
some, pristine property that had, and everybody, oh, no, there shouldn't be anything on there, but I convinced them to get an assessment on it. Turns out that there was a dipping pond there it's like been there for many, many years, where they walk the cows through this dip, the chemical dip, in order to get the fleas and
Fleas,
ticks off of them.
Arsenic.
Mosquitoes.
And it was nasty, nasty contamination that they would have had to pay to remediate. So I pat myself on the back.
So he has to finish this asbestos study, and then he's gonna do a level 1 for the grounds and get a title.
I'm not gonna do a level 1 unless y'all direct me to do a level 1.
You're saying that we need one.
I'm saying that I can't recommend that you purchase the property without it.
Or
Whether
receive.
you need one or not, you won't know until you do the phase 1. That's the deal. But it's a large risk because, circular liability is pretty nasty. But if you get a phase 1 audit, there are some protections built into that if later on you find out that somebody's contaminated your property from off-site. Because it doesn't have to be something they use there necessarily. It can be, they look for contamination from like old gas stations and things like that.
So does he need to do a level 1? Because he needs to get direction for that. We need to give him the go-ahead,
Well,
right?
I would at least have them get the prices on these things before you decide on what you're going to do.
Yep. Let's get some estimates for a level 1.
And a title.
You want to go ahead and get a title search?
Well, we have to, unless
Or
if we
estimates for a
sold
title
it,
search.
then, we have to.
Well, like I said, there could be something in the chain of title somewhere
Right.
back there where they don't really have it, and they're going to swear up and down, and they probably really believe that they have title, and maybe
Yeah.
they do. But there could be something in the chain of title that
Yeah.
somebody missed, and
That's just real estate 101.
Yeah.
You have to do that.
Then those things
I
are
mean,
factored into the
He
baseline price.
He
of the
could
sale.
have a title, document where the title search and opinion was done a while ago, but do you want to accept that from somebody else? You have nothing to go back on. If you had the title done yourself, then at least you can rely on that particular person that does the title opinion, and to their detriment if they're wrong.
So then he needs to do a title. Did he need a boundary survey as well to make sure there's no encroachments like you said?
That's
we
gotta
gotta
be my
take care
legal-
of it all.
That's got to be my legal recommendation. And I just did this in San Antonio, and it was a much smaller piece of property. It was an old right-of-way, railroad right-of-way. But I said, we can't take this from, unless we check these things out. You never know when somebody is kicked over a barrel of something, and that was that. And which has happened in another case.
So David, you have everything that you need from us in order to move forward?
I think so.
Okay. Anything else, David?
Not on that one.
One more.
Airport FBO.
Airport FBO, just to let you know, I've not been sleeping on this. I'm looking at 5 different options right now for an FBO. I can't discuss any of it with you right now because I don't have anything concrete, but I've got 5 different leads that I'm working on for the FBO, and I'll update you as I can. The Lake Verona Stormwater Project, I'm gonna hand that off to our new engineer and bring it back for discussion with y'all to see if you want to proceed with that, because the people from SwiftMud have been from FDOT have been contacting me regularly to find, no, I'm sorry, let me back that up. It is the Swift Mud Board. Swift Mud Board meets once a month, and they want to know if we're going to continue to look at this project or if we're not going to continue looking at it. They want to keep their board members advised. So I'm going to hand this off to Ronnie, let him take a look at it, see what he thinks, and then sometime in the next month, maybe not the end of this month, but possibly in April, I should be able to come to you with some type of an intelligent assumption of what we need to do with it.
And you
based
know,
on your-
David, part of the issue that I had with the plans that were provided to us is that they were so hard to read. But another thing was is that he had stated, you're already ready to go. He had stated,
I got a couple more that I added
okay,
on here.
but
Sam.
he had stated that there was, what do you call it, problems with flooding or something having to do with soil erosion on the sidewalks and stuff in front of City Hall or in other areas of town. And I went and drove when it was raining, and I didn't see what he saw. I don't know if it's percolating or not, but it just seemed that there were some elements of that design that he had that weren't entirely accurate.
David,
So-
oh, I'm sorry.
That was just my thing on that.
I have a question, back to the FBO. I think at one of our meetings, there was a study or something done that we had asked to get a copy of. Did we ever get that?
So, the company that did that, Amherst, was told by a previous city manager to not give us a study.
But I thought you
But we
paid for it.
for it.
We did pay for it, and they refused to get the actual report of it.
So what happened to the money?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, then the consultant needs to be reminded that the money is owed back.
They
if
were
didn't-
instructed
I mean,
by
was there a
they were
contract that was
instructed by the
signed?
city manager at the time to not give it.
Wait
Is
a
that
minute.
wrong?
Oh, my God.
He cannot, wait a minute. So the previous administration instructed the people
Talking about
who
June
did-
Fisher, right? Yep, June Fisher.
Okay, did the.
It was
the-
idiotic, yes.
They
But
provi-
I'm still confused here. I want to know what happened to the report.
There was a
the,
report.
the report was not finalized. They sat down with June and Jason and went through a list of things that they were looking for in an FBO. And they turned around and said, oh, the city can provide this, the city can provide this. So there was nothing that was going to be continued on it. Jason and June said they were going to provide all the services that they were going to list as what they were looking for in an FBO.
And it was never provided.
It was never provided. It stopped right there.
You
So
still wanted
we
to keep those
paid-
$8,000?
I do, I
Okay,
do.
okay.
But let me just ask a question. So the report, the outside agency who did the final report, that's what I'm asking about.
But there's no
never,
final.
It never went to a final report. They
So
got
we paid-
direction,
we
we
paid-
paid them for a service
So-
that they
Paid
never
them, got it.
provided.
So we paid them to do it, and then they were told to stop. So that whatever they did to that point, they were entitled to.
Correct.
Same difference with the other lady then.
Yep.
Well, then they need to pay it back.
Maybe we should
You
go
don't
after
want
for
to
that
do it,
money
I'll
too.
both of
Okay,
them.
now would be a good time to discuss ethics training. Jerry wants to do ethics training for each of y'all, and.
As a
we-
group.
As a group, and we need to set up dates to do that.
Okay.
So I need all of y'all to decide what dates y'all want to do this. We had discussed doing this on a Saturday morning.
How long does it take?
4 hours.
4 hours.
I don't care.
8 to 12, 9 to 1, 10 to 2,
8 to 12.
8 to 12.
That's fine.
Just need to know when.
Um,
Jerry, what Saturday do you have available?
Next month.
If I had to be here at 8, I hope I can stay over here at your cheap hotel or inexpensive, nice hotel.
Jacaranda, I'm sure they
Jacaranda.
would find accommodations for you.
$58?
Yeah, I don't particularly relish being over here at 8, but well, I'll see. Anyway.
I'll buy you breakfast. I'll meet you at 7:30.
At McDonald's.
Okay, what Saturday's good for you guys?
I'd like to go to April.
I'd like to go a little towards late April if we can do it, because I'm taking a CLE from the state
Well-
on that very topic, and so I'll get updated case law and things like that I can use, I can pass on to you.
Well,
April-
not the 20th, because that's Easter weekend.
April 27th?
No, I won't be here
Yeah,
that weekend.
I have a event 27th.
Oh, that's the Blueberry Festival, right?
May 4th?
Relay for Life thing.
Yeah,
That's
we-
fine.
May 4th?
Yes, sir.
May 4th would work for me,
Jerry?
if I think.
Oh, yeah, it's up to Jerry.
Yep, looks good to me.
May 4th it is.
Can you shoot me an email so I have that?
Yes, sir.
I'll try and put it on here, but I don't rely on this phone to put it on my exchange.
May 4th.
It's also Cinco de Mayo
Mail
weekend.
on Ethics.
What, you
For
bring
those who
the-
live in California,
Yeah.
You gonna bring the beer? Oh,
no
only-
comment on that.
Well, that would be an
on
appropriate
Sunday.
time to indulge in Mexican cuisine to celebrate
Absolutely.
Cinco de Mayo.
Are you gonna
Okay.
cook?
Sure.
Sure.
Hmm?
Breakfast.
Two more things, and I'm almost done here.
Okay.
Did you notice my voice cracked just then? I was getting warmed up to sing happy birthday to Jim here in a minute.
Please don't.
It's
Yeah.
late, David.
Today's Jim's birthday.
39.
We have not been transmitting on our Comcast stuff for a few weeks. We found out why yesterday, or last week rather. There is a Comcast fiber line broken somewhere between here and Cornell and Delaney. We thought they were gonna have it fixed today, but it is not. So hopefully it'll be fixed in the next few days, but that's what the problem is.
Is that just for this building?
I can't answer that. Something is wrong between here and there.
Okay.
But our equipment is fine. It's just that fiber line is broken.
But in terms of the video itself, how does it get onto YouTube? How does that work?
Danielle puts it on there.
Manuel puts it on there now.
So when it goes to YouTube, what's the actual website for YouTube? I mean, I tried looking Avon Park City Council meetings. I couldn't find anything under that heading.
It's.
Unfortunately, for some reason, when you go to YouTube and search, it's difficult to find.
But when you upload it, don't you have to go to a certain area, or do you just,
No, we
Log into our account.
we have an
Yeah.
account with YouTube, so we log into that specific account. But if you use the search function, I've tried it before, yes. It takes you several iterations to find the.
I tried,
this-
I couldn't, and,
So we should put a link on our website to the.
Yes.
so I
I
mean,
did too, I couldn't find it.
if you have the actual web address, can you shoot that to
Sure,
us?
of course, yeah. Mhm.
Because the February 25th isn't on there,
We'll see if
unless
we
it
can.
went on today.
We'll see if we can
Very
attach.
first one, type in City of Avon
Yeah, but you've
Park.
got your phone, it already has the memory to go there.
No, I don't pull it up on my phone. I'm telling you right now, I just did a search.
Can
City
you
of
do a
Avon Park.
screenshot of that and send it to me so that I can,
No, the February 25th meeting is the last meeting, right? It's up there.
Correct.
I put it up there myself.
And
It's
we
there.
will,
I-
we will
I-
also attach a link to our website that
Okay.
says click here for that. You can do that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll do that. Moving along, Manny and I met with Penny Ogg last week, referenced deadlines for this year's election, and whether or not we want to do early voting. Early voting is approximately $400 per day to do that. Y'all would need to make a decision closer to that time as to whether or not you wanted to do it.
don't you have a $5,000 budget for that already?
I'm not sure what's budgeted for the election.
I think you do, I saw it.
Okay.
But if you do have that, then we can afford it. I think early voting is really important. That's just me. It's a whole week's worth.
I agree.
That would be your call as to whether you wanted to do that. You have to remember that this is only a city election. There is no general election this year. Now, two things can happen. If the two open seats this year don't have opposition, then you don't have to have an election, of course. But you have charter amendments that you want to do. Do you want to have a charter amendment special election for 13% of your voters to come out for? Or do you want to wait to the following year for the general presidential election and everything where you're going to get 75 to 80% turnout?
Yeah, if there happens to be no election, then absolutely, I would do it on the presidential election because you know everybody's going to go out and vote for that.
And then we'll have it down pat by then, is what you're saying?
The
charter itself?
Well,
Right.
the charter revisions, y'all don't even know what you're going to do with them yet.
No.
One caveat also, Penny mentioned that you have to have your text of revisions completed by August 2nd.
The qualification period runs from July 22nd to August 2nd. So everything has to be written and ready by August 2nd.
Right.
So,
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 So we need to
gonna ask
decide
a
if we want
question.
early voting for just.
No, the one I was gonna ask is that the charter, so who's working on that?
Jerry's drafting something for it. He's gonna bring it back to us.
Got you, I got you.
And we're gonna hopefully have it all done.
You all made some comments at the last meeting. I
Yeah.
incorporated those comments and a few of my own.
Well, I have a question on the charter also, since we're talking about that. If we have, let's just say, 10 different elements that we want to see changed in the charter, is the flavor of the council to put all 10 of those things in there, and then one of those is the reason why the charter doesn't pass? Or would you want 10 different elements as in 10 different votes?
I generally
To
go
go
by
in.
go topically, and.
So topically, so.
Yeah, and for each of the changes, and I have them each as a separate
Okay.
referendum item.
Okay,
And that way they can, pass or fail, pass or fail, pass or fail.
right. That's how I would prefer to see it, but
You
I don't
can
know
do
if
it
that
either
doesn't,
way.
does that require a motion, or is that just the way it's done?
Well, you all tell me at the next meeting, or when you get the
Okay.
charter done.
I don't
But
think
you
we-
are,
We didn't do it that way last time, did we?
no.
You changed the whole
We
charter.
did a one whole-
It was,
yeah.
it was the flavor
Oh.
of the time, so I guess it just depends on who's up here that puts it in that way. I prefer to see it elemental, like you said, just one, at a time.
I've done it both ways.
But you could have as many as a dozen to vote for them, right?
Pardon me?
You could have as many as a dozen to vote for then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they would be hopefully a super easy read, nothing that's so confusing that you don't know what you're voting on.
We're limited on how many words we can put in there and in each referendum, and so I can't get too verbose. Don't
Okay.
worry. I'll
Hey.
avoid it anyway.
Anything else, David?
I did have a
I am
couple
done,
things.
sir.
I
Okay.
just had a couple, can I add to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the Boys and Girls Club portables, I don't see the Boys and Girls Club removing them. When we recontracted with them, it kind of nullified their previous contract that said that they were going to remove it, so it seems like we're going to be the ones on the hook to take those things out.
We'll
Did
have
we-
them destroyed.
Did we have any comment from them? Have they responded at all to that? I think we were supposed to be reaching out to them.
I will check with Dave just to make sure, but I don't think they have any intention of doing it.
What makes you say that, Maria? Did you talk to them?
Well, I had spoken to them before, but based off of previous meetings, they said that, if the city doesn't do it, that they would, but then when you ask them if they can do it, then they don't have the money to do it. So it's
Well-
kind of like, we've already offered to take it out, so what incentive do they have to remove
The
it?
Heartland Lions also offered to do it.
Yeah, but their whole deal was that they had guys that were gonna do it, and this is her football team that were gonna go in and remove it, but they had, they needed to get things donated
Yeah.
and stuff, and that all fell through, so it
Well,
didn't work
You
out,
want
so.
licensed insured people doing it.
Right. Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to ask was, the buoys. We talked so much about the safety of the buoys on Lake Verona, and Mr. Colby never was able to sign the contract because he was unavailable.
Right.
But that needs to be resuscitated. We still have problems with the buoys and the safety of the depth, and also even on Lake Tulane, for example, some of them are like so far out that, when the water rises, they seem to be further away, and the water's deeper. I don't know how that works, but
Right now, you don't have a contract with
no,
Florida
we
Public
don't.
Safety.
But, is the city able to monitor that? Josh had said that he could at some point, so what do we have in the meantime if Mr. Colby doesn't come back?
I thought the fire department could do it also.
Could we search for another agency to do it?
Where it was located. And that's the stuff
You got a boat and you got divers qualified, right?
I mean, we do have divers, but we don't have equipment there to do it. I don't know how they're fastened to the bottom.
Yeah.
We'd have to get back with him on that. But there was something to do with water levels. You had to test the water level to figure out where it had to be.
Right, the
We've
depth.
never been involved in any of that,
Yeah.
so we would need to
If
straighten
I'm-
all that stuff out.
Let me also say that I do recall now, he sent me a text a while back, and I just remembered it. He basically said that he had a problem getting insurance for this. And so I need to talk to him and find out if that means that we're done, or whether he's still looking.
Well, if he's not doing it for us and he's unavailable, then who's doing it for Sebring? If we could see what they're doing, maybe we can, because from what I understood, there weren't that many people
He was
that do
also
this.
doing it for Sebring.
Right, but if he's not able to do it right now, I don't know. I don't know if he's got someone subcontracted out, but it would be helpful to find out because we really need to address that.
Yeah. I seem to remember the county was going through the same problem,
Mm-hmm.
and they were supposed to be getting an answer for what they were gonna be doing very soon. Maybe you can reach out to them and see if they found a better solution. Or we could just throw them all in the trash can and be done with this whole thing.
So the next thing I wanted to ask or talk about, I had gotten several complaints from people, thank you, Andy, about the construction on Highway 27 and its slow progress. So I was able to find the contract on the FDOT website.
Be done in November.
No. Okay, the contracted original days was for 580 days. They adjusted 29, so the current contracted days is 609. They project to be done in February of 2020.
That's what the signs say on
They
the
would
highway.
have told you that.
Yeah, but a lot of people are unaware of that don't go on that part of town. So they had said, can you please just announce that? But now you're saying we don't get TV, so there's no sense of even
Yeah.
advertising that. But at least at least I did what I was asked. But
We got radio here.
you do realize that was an $8 million job. And they've had $73,000 in change orders.
Wow.
Okay.
Anyway, that was all.
Anything else for the good of the city?
Motion to adjourn.
Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. Seeing no opposition, we are adjourned.
Thank you very much. Y'all sing happy birthday to Jim Bernard.
Happy birthday.